Now let's begin. The October rain hammered against Gavin Betrayal's windshield as he pulled into the driveway of his ex-mother-in-law's colonial in Westchester. He was 20 minutes early to pick up Lily, but he'd finished the final blueprints for the Morrison project ahead of schedule. The thought of seeing his 8-year-old daughter's face light up when he arrived early made the hellish traffic worth it. As he shifted into park, a silver Honda Accord 2 houses down flashed its headlights. The window rolled down, and a woman with graying auburn hair leaned out. Gavin didn't recognize her. "Mr. Betrayal?" she called over the rain. He hesitated, then rolled down his window. "Yes, I'm Kay Barron. I used to work for them." She glanced toward Helga's house, her expression urgent. "Look under your daughter's bed. Tonight. You'll find it there." "Find what? Who are?" But she was already rolling up her window. The Accord pulled away before Gavin could react, disappearing around the corner. He sat there, rain drumming overhead, adrenaline spiking through his chest. Used to work for them? Helga had employed several home health aides over the years. She'd had a minor stroke 3 years ago. But why would one of them approach him like this? The front door opened. Lily burst out with her purple backpack, Christina right behind her with an umbrella. His ex-wife looked annoyed, as usual. "Daddy." Lily splashed through puddles toward him. Gavin got out and scooped her up, ignoring the rain. "Hey, little bug. Ready for our week? I get to stay the whole week this time." Her honey-brown eyes widened with hope. "The whole week," he confirmed, catching Christina's cold glare over Lily's shoulder. "She needs her medications every 4 hours, Christina said, thrusting a pharmacy bag at him. "And call me if her episodes get worse. She's been struggling lately." Episodes. The word made his jaw tighten. For the past year, Christina had been convinced Lily had some mysterious chronic condition. Fatigue, dizziness, nausea. She'd dragged their daughter to 8 different specialists, and none could find anything definitively wrong. The pediatrician said, "Dr. Hammond is a general practitioner, Gavin. My mother has medical experience. We know what we're seeing." Gavin forced a smile and took the bag. "We'll be fine. Say goodbye to your mom, Lily." The drive back to his townhouse in Brooklyn took an hour. Lily chattered about school and her best friend Maya's birthday party next month, but Gavin's mind kept circling back to that woman, Kay Barron, and what could possibly be hidden under Lily's bed. After dinner, homemade mac and cheese, Lily's favorite. He helped her with homework and let her watch 1 episode of her show before bed. She took her medication without complaint, and he hated that she'd gotten so used to it. "Sweet dreams, bug," he whispered, tucking her in. "Night, Daddy. I'm happy I'm here." Those words cracked something in his chest. He kissed her forehead and waited until her breathing evened out. Then he knelt beside her bed. The bed frame sat low to the ground, just enough space underneath for storage. Gavin pulled out a plastic bin of stuffed animals, then another with books. Behind that, wedged against the wall, was a manila folder secured with a rubber band. His hands trembled as he pulled it free and carried it to his office down the hall. The moment he opened it, his world tilted. The first page was a photocopy of Lily's medical records from the past 18 months. But these weren't the summaries Christina had shown him. These were complete reports, and someone had highlighted sections in yellow. "Patient presents with symptoms consistent with benzodiazepine exposure. Recommend toxicology screening. Mother declined additional testing." Gavin's vision blurred. He flipped to the next page. A handwritten log, dated entries spanning months. Helga's precise nursing script. April 3rd, administered 0.25 milligrams alprazolam in morning juice. Elle appeared drowsy by noon. Kay documented unexplained fatigue for Dr. Hammond. April 17th, increased dose to 0.5 milligrams. Elle became nauseous. Perfect timing for Kay's appointment with neurologist. May 2nd, Alfonso suggested we photograph Elle during episodes for custody documentation. Brilliant. Page after page. Dates, dosages, calculated manipulations. They were drugging his daughter, deliberately making her sick. Gavin's breath came in sharp gasps. He forced himself to keep reading. A printed email exchange between Christina and someone named Alfonso, her brother, he realized. He lived in Atlantic City and rarely came around. From K. Estes, the trust fund can't be touched until she's 18 unless I have full custody and prove medical necessity. Mom says we need at least 6 more months of documented illness. Are you sure you can wait that long? From A. Barber. I need that money now. The people I owe don't wait. Make it happen, or I'll tell Gavin everything. From K.Estes, you won't say anything, because you're in this just as deep. Once I have full custody, we can access the funds for her treatment. Then we split it like we agreed. The final pages were photographs. Lily looking pale and exhausted on Helga's couch. Lily with dark circles under her eyes. Lily hunched over a trash can. Evidence they were building a case. Evidence they'd been poisoning his daughter for money. $2 million. That's what Gavin's parents had left for Lily before they died in a car accident 3 years ago. The trust fund that was supposed to secure her future. Gavin sat in his office until 3 a.m., reading and rereading every page, his shock hardening into something colder. More focused. They thought they were so clever. They thought they were safe. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Morning came too fast. Gavin had barely slept, but adrenaline sharpened his mind as he made Lily's favorite blueberry pancakes. She came downstairs in her pajamas, looking healthier than he'd seen her in months. No tummy ache today, he asked carefully. Nope. I feel good. She climbed onto the bar stool and dug into breakfast. Because she hadn't been drugged last night. Because she'd been away from them. His phone buzzed. Christina, how was her night? Any episodes? Make sure she takes her morning dose. Gavin stared at the message, rage building in his throat. He typed back. She slept great. Already gave her the medication. A lie. The pills from yesterday were still in the pharmacy bag, and they'd stay there. Daddy, can we go to the park today? Lily asked, syrup on her chin. Absolutely. He wiped her face with a napkin, fighting to keep his voice steady. We can do whatever you want this week, bug. After dropping Lily at school, Gavin drove straight to Manhattan. To the offices of Moran and Associates, where his divorce attorney Jewel Moran kept her practice. The receptionist recognized him. Mr. Betrayal, do you have an appointment? It's an emergency. Tell Jewel I need 10 minutes. 5 minutes later, he sat across from the sharp-eyed lawyer who'd handled his divorce 2 years ago. She was 50, silver-haired, and ruthless when she needed to be. What happened? Jewel asked, studying his face. Gavin placed the folder on her desk. She read in silence, her expression darkening with each page. When she finished, she looked up. This is attempted murder. We need to call the police immediately. No. Gavin's voice was steel. Not yet. Gavin. If we go to the police now, they'll lawyer up. Christina comes from money. Her mother has connections. They'll claim the documents are forged, that I'm fabricating evidence to win custody. He leaned forward. I need them caught red-handed. I need proof so airtight that no lawyer in the world can spin it. Jewel studied him for a long moment. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I need a private investigator. Someone who can document everything. And I need an independent medical evaluation for Lily, toxicology, the works. Without Christina knowing. That's risky. They've been poisoning my daughter for a year. His voice cracked. I'm done playing it safe. Jewel nodded slowly. I know someone. Cecil McGrath, former NYPD detective, now private investigator. He's expensive, but he's the best. She scribbled on a notepad. And I'll arrange the medical evaluation discreetly. We'll need time to build an ironclad case. How long? A few weeks. Maybe a month. Gavin thought about Lily's smile this morning. About the hell they'd put her through. Then we work fast. Cecil McGrath was a stocky man in his 40s with shrewd eyes and a firm handshake. They met at a coffee shop in Murray Hill that afternoon. Jewel filled me in, Cecil said, scanning the folder contents on Gavin's laptop. This is heavy stuff. Your ex-wife and her family are looking at serious felonies. Can you document it? Surveillance, audio recordings where legal, financial investigation. Yeah, I can build a case. But you need to understand something. Cecil leaned back. Once we start this, there's no going back. And if they catch wind of what you're doing, they might accelerate their plan or destroy evidence. So what do? You play along. Act normal. Keep giving the medication, but switch it out with placebos. I know a pharmacist who can help. Let your daughter keep improving gradually, but not so much that they get suspicious. Cecil tapped the table. Meanwhile, I dig into Alfonso Barber's finances, find out who he owes money to. I surveil Helga's house, see who comes and goes. And we build a timeline that proves systematic poisoning. Gavin's mind raced. What about Kay Barron? The woman who gave me this. I'll find her. She's our star witness. She worked in that house, probably saw things firsthand. Cecil pulled out a contract. My retainer is $10,000. Daily rate is 500 plus expenses. This could run you 30 to 40,000 by the time we're done. I don't care about the money. Good. Because we're going to bury them. They shook hands, and for the first time since finding that folder, Gavin felt something other than helpless rage. He felt purpose. He picked up Lily from school and took her to the park as promised. She ran and played with an energy he hadn't seen in months, and every laugh was a reminder of what he was fighting for. That night, after she fell asleep, Gavin stood in his office staring at the folder. Christina had always been selfish, but this was evil. And Helga, the woman who'd baked him cookies when he and Christina were engaged, who'd helped plan their wedding, had methodically drugged her own granddaughter. Alfonso's involvement made a sick kind of sense. Christina's older brother had always been trouble. Gambling, debt, bad decisions. But dragging a child into his mess? They'd all pay. Every single one of them. Gavin's phone buzzed with a text from Cecil, found Kay Barron. Meeting her tomorrow. We'll update soon. He replied with a thumbs up and opened his laptop. If he was going to beat them, he needed to understand every angle of their plan. He needed to think 3 steps ahead. Because that's who Gavin Betrayal was. In architecture, you didn't just design buildings. You anticipated every structural weakness, every potential failure point. You built with precision and purpose. This would be no different. He would design their downfall with the same meticulous care he brought to his blueprints. And when it all came crashing down, they'd never see it coming. The next morning, Gavin dropped Lily at school and drove to a diner in Queens where Cecil had arranged to meet Kay Barron. She sat in a corner booth, looking nervous and tired. "Thank you for meeting me," Gavin said, sliding in across from her. Kay nodded, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug. Cecil sat beside her, notepad ready. "Tell him what you told me," Cecil prompted gently. Kay took a shaky breath. "I worked for Helga Estes for 8 months as a home health aide. Started last January after she had the stroke. At first, everything seemed normal. But around March, I noticed things." "What things?" Gavin asked. "Lily would be fine when you dropped her off, energetic, happy. But within an hour, she'd get drowsy and sick. I thought maybe she had a blood sugar issue or something. But then one day, I saw Helga crushing pills and mixing them into Lily's juice when she thought I was in the bathroom." Gavin's hands clenched under the table. "I confronted her," Kay continued. "She said it was prescribed medication for Lily's condition. But I'd been a pediatric nurse before becoming a home aide, and I knew those pills. They were alprazolam, anti-anxiety medication. Way too strong for a child. Why didn't you report it then?" Kay's eyes filled with tears. "I did. I called Child Protective Services anonymously. But Helga found out somehow that someone from her house had made the call. She fired me immediately and threatened to ruin my reputation if I said anything. She has friends in the medical community, connections I don't have. I was terrified. But you kept the folder. I made copies of everything I could find before she fired me. Medical logs, emails I saw on her computer when she left it open. I knew it was wrong what they were doing, but I was scared." She looked directly at Gavin. "When I saw on Facebook that you had custody this week, I knew I had to give you the evidence. That little girl deserves better." Cecil slid a document across the table. "Kay's willing to testify. She'll give a sworn statement about everything she witnessed." Gavin felt something loosen in his chest. "Thank you. You probably saved my daughter's life." Kay wiped her eyes. "I should have been braver sooner." "I'm sorry. You were brave enough," Gavin said firmly. "And now we're going to make sure they face justice." They spent the next hour going through Kay's testimony in detail. She described conversations she'd overheard between Helga and Christina, Alfonso's visits where he'd pressure them to speed things up, the way they'd photograph Lily during her worst moments. When they finished, Cecil walked Kay to her car while Gavin sat in the booth, processing everything. His phone rang. "Christina." He let it ring twice before answering. "Hey, how's Lily? Mom wants to see her this weekend." The casual way she asked, like she wasn't slowly destroying their daughter's health. Like she wasn't planning to steal from her. "She's good. Better, actually. Haven't needed to give her the medication as much." A pause. "Gavin, you need to follow the schedule exactly. Her condition is serious." The pediatrician said. "The pediatrician doesn't know everything." Christina's voice sharpened. "My mother has 40 years of nursing experience. Just follow the directions." He swallowed his rage. "Okay. Sorry. I'll stick to the schedule." "Good." Her tone softened slightly. "Bring her by Sunday evening." Mom wants to do dinner. Over my dead body, Gavin thought. Out loud, he said, sure. See you then. He hung up and texted Cecil. They want her back Sunday. We need to move faster. The response came immediately, already on it. I've got surveillance set up at Helga's house. And I found something interesting about Alfonso. Meeting at your place tonight, 7 p.m. Gavin drove back to Brooklyn with a sense of grim satisfaction. The pieces were falling into place. He just needed to be patient. Strategic. At pickup, Lily bounced out of school with a drawing she'd made in art class. A picture of her and Gavin at the park, both smiling. For you, Daddy. He taped it to the fridge when they got home, right where he could see it. A reminder of what mattered. Cecil arrived at 7 sharp, carrying a laptop and a thick file. They sat at Gavin's dining table while Lily watched a movie in the living room. Alfonso Barber, Cecil began, opening the file. 40 years old, works sporadically in construction. Lives in a studio apartment in Atlantic City. And here's where it gets interesting. He owes $215,000 to a loan shark named Lenny Corrigan. Gavin whistled. That's a lot of debt. Gets better. Corrigan has mob connections. Alfonso's got 2 months to pay, or things get ugly. That's why he's pushing Christina so hard. Cecil pulled up photos on his laptop. I've been watching Helga's house. Alfonso visited twice this week. And look who else showed up. The photos showed a man in his 50s, expensive suit, arriving in a Mercedes. Who is he? Herbert Schaefer. Family lawyer for the Estes family. I'm guessing they're getting legal advice on how to secure full custody. Cecil smirked. But here's the kicker. I did some digging. Schaefer has a reputation. He's been disciplined twice by the Bar Association for coaching clients to falsify evidence in custody cases. Gavin leaned forward. So he's helping them build a fraudulent case. Most likely. Which means if we can prove he knew about the drugging, he's an accessory. Cecil pulled out another document. I also got the toxicology results from Lily's medical evaluation yesterday. She has benzodiazepines in her system, consistent with chronic exposure. The independent pediatrician confirmed what Kay witnessed. Someone's been giving her anti-anxiety medication regularly. It was real. Documented. Undeniable. What's our next move? Gavin asked. We need to catch them in the act. Get audio or video of them discussing the plan, administering the drugs, or explicitly stating their intent. Cecil pulled out a small device. This is a recording pen. Looks normal, but it captures high-quality audio. When you drop Lily off Sunday, I want you wearing this. Gavin took the pen, turning it over in his hands. They'll just talk about normal stuff in front of me. Maybe. But Alfonso's desperate. Helga's cautious, but she's arrogant. Christina's overconfident. One of them will slip. Cecil met his eyes. And when they do, we'll have them. They spent the next 2 hours planning every detail. Cecil would have a surveillance team watching the house. Gavin would wear the recording device and try to provoke conversations that might reveal their scheme. And if they couldn't get evidence Sunday, they'd find another way. One more thing, Cecil said before leaving. Jewel arranged for a forensic accountant to review Lily's trust fund paperwork. If they've been trying to access it improperly, we'll know. After Cecil left, Gavin checked on Lily. She'd fallen asleep on the couch, the TV still playing. He carried her to bed, marveling at how light she felt. How fragile. They'd tried to destroy her for money. His ex-wife, his former mother-in-law, and a gambling addict brother-in-law. A conspiracy built on greed and cruelty. But they'd made one critical mistake. They'd underestimated him. Gavin Betrayal had spent 15 years designing buildings that could withstand earthquakes, hurricanes, and time itself. He understood load-bearing walls and structural integrity. He knew how to find the weakest point in any system. And this system, this family's house of cards built on lies and poison, had a foundation made of glass. He just needed to find the right place to apply pressure. Sunday would be the first test. The weekend passed in a blur of normalcy that felt surreal. Saturday morning, Gavin took Lily to gymnastics class, something Christina had claimed she was too sick to do anymore. His daughter practically glowed as she cartwheeled and balanced on beams, her energy boundless now that the drugs were out of her system. She's improved so much, her instructor commented. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. If only she knew. That evening, as Lily played with blocks in her room, Gavin's phone rang. Alfonso. That was unexpected. Gavin. It's Alfonso. Christina's brother. I know who you are. What's up? Listen, I'm in town for a few days. Thought I'd come by tomorrow when you drop Lily off, spend some time with my niece. That okay with you? Every instinct screamed warning. Alfonso never wanted to spend time with Lily. This was something else. Sure, Gavin said carefully. We'll be there around 5. Perfect. See you then. Gavin immediately called Cecil. Alfonso's going to be at the drop-off tomorrow. That's not a coincidence. No, it's not. They're escalating. Alfonso needs money desperately, and Christina probably told him you mentioned Lily was getting better. They might try to restart the medication more aggressively. Cecil paused. This could actually work in our favor. Alfonso's the weak link. He's desperate and not as careful as the others. If anyone's going to say something incriminating, it's him. What if they try to keep Lily there? They won't. Legally, it's your custody week. But be prepared for them to push back on the schedule, claim she needs to stay for medical reasons. Don't agree to anything. Sunday afternoon arrived with heavy gray skies, threatening rain. Gavin dressed Lily in her favorite purple dress and packed her overnight bag per the custody agreement. She'd stay at Helga's Sunday night, then back to him Monday after school for the rest of the week. The recording pin sat in his shirt pocket, looking innocuous. Cecil's surveillance van was already positioned 2 houses down when they arrived. Helga answered the door with her usual tight smile. She was 62, thin and elegant, with silver hair pulled into a neat bun. Hard to believe those hands had systematically poisoned a child. There's my girl. She embraced Lily, who hugged back automatically. Come in, come in. Your mother's in the kitchen. The house smelled like roast chicken. Too normal, too domestic. Gavin followed them inside, every sense heightened. Christina appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. At 33, she was still beautiful. Dark hair, sharp features, the kind of looks that had initially attracted him. Now all he saw was the calculating coldness beneath. Gavin, you're early. Traffic was light. He set down Lily's bag. Alfonso said he'd be here. He's in the den. Something flickered across her face. Annoyance? You don't have to stay. We've got it from here. I thought I'd say hi. It's been a while. Before Christina could object, Alfonso emerged from the hallway. He'd put on weight since Gavin last saw him, and his eyes had that desperate quality of someone drowning in debt. Gavin, good to see you, man. The friendliness felt forced. How's business? Steady. You know, up and down. Construction work's unpredictable. Alfonso clapped him on the shoulder. Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Man to man. Gavin's pulse quickened. Sure. They stepped out onto the back porch while Helga occupied Lily with cookies in the kitchen. The autumn air was crisp, leaves scattered across the yard. Alfonso leaned against the railing, trying to look casual. So, Christina mentioned Lily's doing better this week. That's great. Yeah, she's had more energy. But you've been keeping up with her medications, right? That's important. She's got a real condition. Alfonso's eyes were too intense, too focused. The doctors haven't confirmed. Doctors don't know everything, man. Helga's been a nurse forever. She knows what she's seeing. Alfonso lowered his voice. Look, between you and me, Christina's really stressed about this custody arrangement. Lily needs stability, medical supervision. She's worried you're not equipped to handle it. There it was. The opening move. Gavin kept his expression neutral. I'm her father. I'm equipped just fine. I know. But maybe. Have you thought about letting Christina have primary custody? For Lily's sake? You could still see her, of course, but... No. Alfonso's jaw tightened. You're being stubborn. This isn't about you. It's about what's best for Lily. Exactly. And what's best for Lily is living with me. Even if she's sick? Even if she needs constant medical attention? Alfonso stepped closer, his tone shifting to something harder. Think about her future, Gavin. Think about the money your parents left her. If something happened because you weren't providing proper care, you'd never forgive yourself. The money. He'd brought it up naturally, like it wasn't the entire motive. Her trust fund is protected no matter who has custody, Gavin said carefully. But access for medical expenses, that's different. Christina could use those funds to get Lily the best treatment. Specialists, therapy, whatever she needs. Alfonso's desperation was showing now. It's the smart move. The right move. Gavin let the silence stretch, watching Alfonso's anxiety build. Finally, I'll think about it. Relief flooded Alfonso's face. Yeah? That's great. Really great. Because we all want what's best for Lily, right? Right. Gavin agreed. Thinking. You want what's best for your gambling debts. They went back inside. where Helga had Lily's medication laid out on the kitchen counter. 4 pills, precisely arranged. Time for her evening dose, Helga announced cheerfully. Lily looked at the pills with resignation that broke Gavin's heart. She'd gotten so used to this routine. Actually, Gavin said, her pediatrician wanted me to double-check the dosages with you. I've got the prescription info in my car. Helga's smile tightened. That's not necessary. I know exactly what she needs. I know, but humor me. Let me just grab the papers. He went to his car, giving Cecil time to confirm the surveillance equipment was catching everything. When he returned, Christina was holding Lily's chin, trying to get her to swallow the first pill. Wait, Gavin said sharply. Everyone froze. What? Christina's voice was ice. I want to see the prescription bottles. The actual prescriptions. Gavin, this is ridiculous, Helga interjected. We do this every week. And every week I trust you. But Lily's been doing so well this week. I want to make sure we're not over-medicating her. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Are you accusing us of something? Christina asked quietly. Gavin met her stare. I'm being a responsible parent. That's all. You're being paranoid and controlling, Christina snapped. This is exactly why Lily needs stability. Your anxiety is. Show me the prescriptions, Christina. A long, terrible silence. Helga and Christina exchanged glances. Alfonso shifted uncomfortably. Finally, Helga retrieved bottles from a cabinet. Gavin examined them carefully. Alprazolam, 0.5 milligrams, prescribed by Dr. Hammond, but the dates were recent, and he'd never heard anything about anxiety medication. Dr. Hammond prescribed these? He asked. He recommended them after consulting with a psychiatrist, Helga said smoothly. For Lily's stress and anxiety related to her condition. Lies. All lies. But he had them on record now, doubling down on their fabrication. I'd like to speak with Dr. Hammond myself. Feel free, Christina said coldly. But right now, you're disrupting Lily's routine, which is exactly the kind of instability she doesn't need. Gavin looked at his daughter, who sat at the kitchen table looking confused and scared. He couldn't push too hard, or they'd suspect. He needed to retreat strategically. Okay, he said, forcing his voice to soften. You're right. Sorry. I just worry about her. The tension eased slightly. Christina administered the medication while Gavin watched, memorizing every detail. Lily swallowed the pills with juice, and within 30 minutes, she started yawning. Time for bed, sweetie, Helga said. Say goodnight to Daddy. Gavin hugged his daughter tight, whispering, I love you, Bug. See you tomorrow after school. Love you too, she murmured, already drowsy. As he walked to his car, Alfonso followed him out. Hey, about what we talked about, Alfonso said. Give it serious thought, okay? This could be resolved peacefully, everyone winning. Sure, Gavin said. I'll think about it. He drove 3 blocks, then pulled over and called Cecil. Please tell me you got all of that. Every word, Cecil confirmed. Alfonso essentially advocated for them getting custody so they can access the trust fund. And we've got clear audio of them medicating Lily with undocumented prescriptions. This is solid. What now? Now we document how quickly Lily recovers when she's with you versus when she's with them. We build the pattern. And we find one more piece. The smoking gun that proves intent to defraud. Gavin's hands gripped the steering wheel. How long? 2 weeks. Maybe less. I'm working on accessing Helga's computer records remotely. A contact of mine might be able to help. If we can get those emails directly from her hard drive, we have everything we need. 2 weeks. 14 days of playing this game while his daughter was drugged every time she visited her mother. Gavin, Cecil said, reading his thoughts. I know it's hard, but we're close. Stay strong. He drove home and spent the rest of the night reviewing everything they had. Kay's testimony, the medical records, the toxicology results, now the recordings from today. Piece by piece, the case was building. At midnight, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You asked too many questions today. Back off, or you'll regret it. Hey, Alfonso, threatening him. Gavin saved the message and forwarded it to Cecil. Then he replied, just looking out for my daughter. The response came immediately. We all are. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. He didn't reply. Let Alfonso stew in his desperation. The next morning, Gavin picked up Lily from school as scheduled. She was sluggish, pale, and complained of a headache, all side effects of the medication wearing off. We'll get you home and comfortable, he promised. By Tuesday, she was bouncing back. By Wednesday, she was fully herself again, energetic, happy, healthy. Gavin documented everything with photos and notes, creating a clear before and after comparison. Thursday evening, Cecil called with news. "We're in. My tech guy cracked Helga's home computer remotely. I've got every email, every document on her hard drive. And Gavin, it's all here. Years of correspondence with Christina planning this. Financial projections on how they'd split the trust fund. Even a draft custody petition Herbert Schaefer helped them write that fabricates medical emergencies." Gavin's breath caught. "So we have everything." "We have everything," Cecil confirmed. "I'm compiling it all into a report for Jewel. By Monday, we'll be ready to file emergency custody motions and criminal charges. For more days. Just 4 more days." Friday afternoon, Christina called. "I'm picking up Lily tomorrow for the weekend. Mom wants her there early. It's not your custody weekend. Her medical appointments are Monday morning. It makes sense for her to stay with us." "No." Gavin's voice was firm. "She stays with me. You can pick her up Sunday evening per our agreement." "Gavin, don't be difficult. My mother is concerned about Lily's health, and frankly, so am I. You've been resistant to her treatment, and that's unacceptable. The treatment that no doctor has actually confirmed she needs? Are you questioning my mother's medical expertise? After 40 years as a nurse, I'm questioning why my daughter is only sick when she's with you." Dead silence. When Christina spoke again, her voice was arctic. "What exactly are you implying?" "Nothing. Just an observation. You know what? Fine. Keep her this weekend. But Monday, we're having a serious conversation about this custody arrangement. With lawyers present. Looking forward to it," Gavin said and hung up. He immediately texted Cecil. "They're escalating. Want to discuss custody modification Monday. Perfect timing. We'll file our motions Monday morning before they can." Saturday morning, Gavin took Lily to the zoo. They spent the whole day together, feeding giraffes and watching the penguins, and she laughed more than she had in a year. He took photos constantly, capturing evidence of a healthy, happy child. That evening, as she fell asleep, she murmured, "Can I stay with you forever, Daddy?" "That's the plan, Bug," he whispered. Sunday night, he delivered his daughter to Helga's house for her court-mandated overnight stay. Christina answered the door, her expression unreadable. "We'll see you in court," she said coldly. "Looking forward to it," Gavin replied. Monday morning at 9 a.m., Jewel Moran filed an emergency motion for full custody along with criminal complaints against Christina Estes, Helga Estes, Alfonso Barber, and Herbert Schaefer. The charges included child endangerment, attempted fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, assault on a minor, and for Schaefer specifically, conspiracy to fabricate evidence. By 10 a.m., police were at Helga's house executing a search warrant. By noon, all 4 were in custody. Gavin watched it unfold from Jewel's office, Cecil beside him, as news alerts popped up on his phone. The story was already making local news. Prominent Westchester family arrested for child endangerment scheme. "They're saying we fabricated everything," Jewel said, reviewing her email. "Schaefer's already filing countermotions." "Let them," Cecil said. "We've got their own emails, medical records, witness testimony, and forensic evidence. This case is airtight." Gavin's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "You bastard." Alfonso's voice, raw with rage. "You ruined everything. Do you know what you've done? I protected my daughter. I'm dead. The people I owe, they're going to kill me. You happy now? You should have thought about that before you decided to poison a child for money." Gavin hung up and blocked the number. The preliminary hearing was set for Friday. Gavin had emergency temporary custody of Lily, with Christina and Helga forbidden from contact pending the hearing. The media attention was intense. Local news crews camped outside the courthouse, the story trending on social media. Thursday evening, Jewel called with an update. "Christina's attorney just called me. She wants to make a deal." Gavin's blood went cold. "What kind of deal?" "She'll plead guilty to child endangerment if we drop the fraud charges. She'll give up all custody rights permanently. She says Helga and Alfonso forced her into it, that she went along out of fear." "That's bullshit. The emails prove it was her idea." "I know, but her attorney is spinning it as spousal abuse. Apparently Alfonso threatened her. They're trying to paint her as a victim." Jewel paused. "The prosecutor is considering it. A guaranteed guilty plea versus a trial that could go either way." "No," Gavin said flatly. No deals. She doesn't get to escape this by throwing the others under the bus. They all planned it together. They all get charged together. Gavin, think strategically. If she pleads guilty, you get permanent custody immediately. No trial, no risk. And she gets what? Probation? Community service? While my daughter has to grow up knowing her mother got away with poisoning her. His voice rose. No. She faces full consequences. All of them do. Jewel was quiet for a moment. Okay. I'll tell the prosecutor you're not interested in a plea deal. But you need to be prepared. This trial could get ugly. They're going to attack you, claim you're vindictive, make you look bad. Let them try. Friday's preliminary hearing was standing room only. Gavin sat in the front row with Cecil and Jewel while the defendants were arraigned. Christina wouldn't meet his eyes. Helga looked defiant. Alfonso looked terrified. Herbert Schaefer, the family attorney who'd helped them, stood separately with his own lawyer, already working to distance himself from the others. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Melinda Zhang, presented the evidence methodically. The medical records showing poisoning, Kay Barron's testimony, the emails detailing the conspiracy, the financial forensics showing Alfonso's debt, and the planned fraud. The defense attorneys argued it was all circumstantial, that the medications were legitimately prescribed, that Gavin was a vindictive ex-husband manipulating evidence. But when the judge reviewed Kay's sworn testimony and the toxicology reports, her expression hardened. I've seen enough, Judge Lillian Hoffman said. All 4 defendants will be held pending trial. Bail is set at $250,000 each. Mr. Betrayal retains full custody. Defendants are forbidden from any contact with a minor child. We'll reconvene in 30 days for trial. The gavel came down. Helga gasped. Christina started crying. Alfonso sat with his head in his hands. Only Schaefer maintained composure, already whispering with his attorney. Gavin felt Cecil's hand on his shoulder. First round goes to us. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Gavin had prepared a brief statement. My daughter is safe. That's all that matters. The evidence speaks for itself. Justice will be served. He refused to answer questions and left quickly with Cecil and Jewel. That night, Lily asked him, "Why can't I see Mommy?" Gavin had been dreading this conversation. He knelt down to her level, choosing his words carefully. Your mom made some choices that weren't safe for you. The courts decided you need to stay with me for now to make sure you're healthy and protected. Because of the medicine? His heart clenched. What about the medicine? It always made me feel yucky. But Grandma said I had to take it. Her voice was small. I didn't like it. You don't have to take it anymore, Gavin said, pulling her into a hug. I promise. Am I going to see them again? Honestly, he didn't know. That would be up to her someday, if she wanted to. But for now, not for a while. But you're safe, and I'm here, and that's what matters. She hugged him tighter. Good. The trial began 3 weeks later and lasted 5 brutal days. The prosecution built their case methodically. Kay Barron testified about witnessing the systematic drugging. The independent pediatrician explained the toxicology results and the harm caused by chronic benzodiazepine exposure in children. A forensic accountant detailed the conspiracy to access Lily's trust fund fraudulently. Most damaging were the emails and recordings. The jury listened as Christina and Helga coldly discussed dosages and symptoms, as Alfonso pressured them to hurry up because his creditors were threatening him, as they calculated how to split $2 million among themselves. The defense tried to argue that Gavin had fabricated evidence, that he'd hacked computers illegally, that Kay Barron had a grudge against Helga for firing her. But Cecil's surveillance footage corroborated everything. Phone records matched the email timestamps. Medical experts confirmed the drugging had occurred. On the 4th day, the prosecution played the recording from Gavin's visit to Helga's house. The jury heard Alfonso explicitly connecting custody to the trust fund. Heard Helga dismiss medical concerns. Heard Christina brush off Gavin's questions with practiced lies. Gavin watched the jury's faces throughout the trial. Saw disgust when they heard the evidence. Saw anger when they viewed photos of Lily looking sick and pale. Saw determination when the prosecutor asked them to protect vulnerable children from those who would harm them for profit. The defense presented their case on day 5. Their strategy was to blame each other. Helga claimed she was only following what she thought were legitimate medical protocols. Christina testified that her mother and brother had pressured her, that she'd been afraid to refuse. Alfonso broke down on the stand, admitting his gambling debts but claiming he never wanted to hurt Lily, that things had gotten out of hand. Herbert Schaefer testified he'd only provided general legal advice and had no knowledge of any poisoning scheme. His phone records said otherwise. Dozens of calls and meetings with Christina and Helga during the planning phase. The prosecutor destroyed each defense on cross-examination. She produced emails where Helga calculated dosages specifically to cause symptoms. Texts where Christina complained about having to play nice with Gavin until they could get full custody and the money. Alfonso's own words on the recording implicating himself. After closing arguments, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. Gavin sat in the courthouse hallway with Cecil and Jewel, unable to eat, barely able to think. Everything came down to this. 12 strangers deciding whether his daughter's abusers would face consequences. At 4:47 p.m., the jury returned. The courtroom was silent as they filed in. Gavin's heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Hoffman asked. We have, Your Honor. On the count of child endangerment in the first degree, how do you find the defendant Christina Estes? Guilty. The word hit like a thunderclap. Christina's shoulders shook as she sobbed. On the count of conspiracy to commit fraud, how do you find the defendant Christina Estes? Guilty. One by one, the verdicts came. Guilty on all counts for Christina. Guilty on all counts for Helga. Guilty on all counts for Alfonso. For Herbert Schaefer, guilty of conspiracy and obstruction of justice. When the last verdict was read, Gavin closed his eyes and let out a breath he'd been holding for months. It was over. Judge Hoffman scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. As the defendants were led away in handcuffs, Christina finally looked at Gavin. Her expression was a mix of hatred and despair. He met her gaze steadily, feeling nothing but relief. Outside, the media frenzy was intense. Gavin made another brief statement. Justice was served today. My daughter can heal now. Cecil clapped him on the back. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Gavin corrected. All of us. Sentencing day arrived with winter's first snow. Gavin sat in the courtroom with Jewel, watching as each defendant was brought before Judge Hoffman. The judge spoke at length about the severity of their crimes, about the betrayal of trust, about the calculated cruelty of poisoning a child for financial gain. Christina Estes, the judge said, you violated the most fundamental duty of a parent, to protect your child. Instead, you deliberately harmed her for money. You showed no remorse until you were caught. I sentence you to 12 years in prison, followed by 10 years probation. You will permanently lose all parental rights to your daughter. Christina collapsed, her sobs echoing through the courtroom. Helga Estes, as a medical professional, you betrayed the oath to do no harm. You used your knowledge to systematically poison your own granddaughter. I sentence you to 15 years in prison. Helga finally broke, tears streaming down her face. Alfonso Barber, your desperation for money led you to endanger a child's life. I sentence you to 10 years in prison, followed by 5 years probation. You will be required to pay restitution of $50,000 to cover the child's medical and legal expenses. Alfonso didn't react, just stared at his hands. Herbert Schaefer, as an officer of the court, your actions are particularly egregious. You helped fabricate evidence and obstruct justice. I sentence you to 5 years in prison. Additionally, I am recommending disbarment proceedings. Schaefer's face went white. When it was done, Gavin stood and left the courthouse. The snow fell softly, covering the city in white. A fresh start. He picked up Lily from school that afternoon and took her for hot chocolate. The trial's over, he told her. Everything's going to be okay now. Are they going to prison? She asked, wise beyond her years. Yes. Good. She took a sip of her cocoa. They hurt me. I know. But they can't hurt you anymore. I promise. That night, Gavin stood in his office looking at the timeline he'd created months ago. Every piece of evidence, every step of his plan, every calculated move that had brought them to justice. He'd won. Lily was safe. The people who'd harmed her were facing real consequences. But the victory felt different than he'd expected. Not triumphant, just quiet. Settled. Right. His phone buzzed. A message from Cecil. Drinks to celebrate? Gavin looked at Lily's drawing on his desk, the one from months ago of them at the park, both smiling. Rain check. Spending tonight with my daughter. Because that's what mattered. Not revenge or victory or justice, as sweet as those were. What mattered was the little girl sleeping safely in her bed, finally healthy, finally protected, finally free from those who would harm her. Gavin had promised to keep her safe, and promises, he'd learned, were worth fighting for. 6 months later, life had settled into a new rhythm. Lily was thriving in therapy, her nightmares fading, her health fully restored. She'd started soccer and art classes, made new friends, and smiled constantly. Gavin received a letter forwarded by Jewel. From Christina. He almost threw it away unread. But curiosity won out. Gavin, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know I'm sorry. I was so consumed by bitterness over the divorce, over your parents' money going to Lily and not me, that I lost sight of what mattered. My mother and brother manipulated that resentment, but that's no excuse. I made the choice to hurt our daughter. Every day in here, I think about what I did. About how I could have become that person. I destroyed everything. My freedom, my relationship with Lily, any chance at redemption. You were right to stop me. Right to pursue justice. You saved her life. I know you'll never let me see her again. That's fair. But please, someday, when she's old enough to understand, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I loved her, even though I showed it in the worst possible way. I hope you both find happiness. You deserve it. K. Gavin read the letter twice, then filed it away. Maybe someday he'd share it with Lily, when she was old enough to process it. Or maybe he wouldn't. That was a decision for another day. For now, he had a daughter to pick up from soccer practice, dinner to make, homework to help with. The simple, beautiful mundane tasks of being a father. As he drove to the soccer field, Gavin thought about the night Kate Barron had rolled down her window and changed everything. About the folder under Lily's bed. About the long, careful plan to expose the truth. He'd been methodical, strategic, patient. He'd used their own arrogance and desperation against them. He'd built an airtight case and seen it through to the end. But most importantly, he'd protected his daughter. That was the only victory that mattered. Lily ran toward him across the soccer field, grass stains on her knees, ponytail bouncing, face lit with pure joy. Daddy, did you see? I scored a goal. I saw. You were amazing. She crashed into him with a hug, smelling like sweat and grass and happiness. I love you, Bug, he whispered into her hair. Love you too, Daddy. Forever and ever. Forever and ever. That's exactly how long he'd keep this promise. They walked to the car together, her small hand in his, talking about the game and what they'd have for dinner and whether they could watch a movie tonight. Just a father and daughter, safe and whole, with their whole lives ahead of them. And Gavin Betrayal had never felt more at peace. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.